Good evening, legends. Welcome to Aussie OCR number 120. Super excited tonight. I'm talking to an awesome dude who's over in Bangkok, over in Thailand, Gabe Heck. He's an expat out of the US. He's been running OCR for about 5 years, I believe, and has proven a couple of weeks ago that he's the fastest man in Southeast Asia. So this is going to be a good chat. He's a super nice, chilled guy. So stick around for a while. As usual, guys, it is a live podcast. So let us know your questions and we will get to them. No matter how ridiculous they are. Gabe, he's here. Hello.
What's up? Sawadee Kap, as we say
What's
in
up?
Thailand.
Sawadee krab. I spent, I don't know, 12 days in Thailand, all of it in Phuket this time. And then we did a couple of days in Malaysia. And for like 3 days, I was still like bowing to everyone. My missus is like, you don't have to bow to people here. The Y. It's WAI, isn't it?
WAI, yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, you got to stop bowing, man. Everyone's looking at you.
You were there. How was Phuket? You enjoy it?
Yeah, it's beautiful, dude. Phuket's amazing. Thailand's amazing. I'm not super well traveled, but man, I like Thailand. Something about just the culture, the vibes, the people. It's just, and like, look, no shade on Malaysia. We did a couple of days in KL after, and it's just not as friendly, man.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree.
But in saying that, if you go to like one of the big cities in Australia, I find it's not quite as friendly as like the sort of smaller, quieter places. Like I'm on the Gold Coast, which is sort of like the Phuket of Australia. So it's like the party beach island. Everyone walks around in thongs and boardies all the time. So it's I just felt like
a stereotype for sure. Yeah,
I pretty much live that stereotype, my friend. So guys, if you are starting to jump on, we'll have a couple of people jumping on to join us. If you are watching, give us a hashtag live, give us a hashtag replay if you're catching a replay later, and ask us your questions. Ask your questions for Gabe, for me, even irrelevant questions. Ask us anything.
Anything, yeah, for sure.
Mate, Gabe, we'll get straight into this. We'll get straight into talking about APAC because you are... Dom's here, live from my lounge room upstairs. So, mate, I chatted to you at APAC last year. That might have been where I met you, actually, at
probably, yeah,
Phuket, and or maybe it was Chiang Mai earlier. Anyway, so you DNF'd it last year with the race not going to plan. We're back for redemption this year, and mate, nobody was looking like touching you out there. How'd that race feel?
It's what I said to you after, dude. And first of all, like, thank you for being there, because, as you know, no one's really that kind of video coverage, you know? I mean, you got all the great pictures after. But I just feel like you did such an amazing job of really capturing that race, knowing where to run, following everyone around. It was incredible. So,
yeah, cheers.
I really just appreciate that. And, you know, I got to send that video to a lot of family, friends who didn't get to watch, and they all were like, you know, tell this guy's freaking awesome. Tell him congrats. So.
Yeah, cheers, man.
Yeah,
I get that from a lot of races because we are in a pretty niche, small sport, you know. And like I was watching the World Champs in Abu Dhabi over the weekend, and you know they did a fantastic job with the coverage. But that's about the best the coverage has ever been from what I've seen. Like it's definitely evolving. But go back a year or two ago when I started sort of running around with a camera, like a lot of athletes had never seen themselves do it. Like they'd have one family who'd get them at one obstacle, but you know, being able to watch sort of half a race on camera, you know, there's nobody really doing it. So it's I really enjoy it, man. People seem to dig it. The athletes really dig it, which is cool.
Dude, it's awesome. And you like knew the stories behind all this too, man. Like you knew our names, who we're from.
I did a bit of Googling.
You definitely did, which is crazy. It's awesome. No, it was an amazing experience, man. Like I just total night and day from my experience last year. As we did discuss, like you want to go into a race with a pretty positive, fresh mindset, and
absolutely.
I just felt like what I had, you know, I didn't have a lot of experience racing this year because I'd only done one Spartan race prior to APAC, so I was a little bit not the most confident going in terms of running a race. But then, of course, once you've been doing this stuff for a couple of years, you just draw on past experiences, and I knew who to look out for and kind of who to run with, and had talked to someone before about, if this goes to plan, what I should be doing, where I should be at certain times, and
Mhm.
just carried it out, dude. It was pretty surreal. So,
Perfect.
yeah, really, really
Well,
awesome experience.
how close? And you did say, man, you had executed your race plan the way you wanted to. You gave Liam a shout out. Um, but how close were you in terms of pacing? Because you didn't start out at the front. You probably came into the first obstacle gauntlet in about eighth. The first sort of
Yeah,
couple little walls.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then once they got into the heavier obstacles like the bucket carry, which was a long bucket carry and it was savage and quite loose ground, and got into that really upper body heavy gauntlet, you just ground them down. But you certainly didn't look like you tried to sort of stick with the front runners in the first K or two. How much of that was intentional?
A big part of it. I mean, a lot of this is knowing your strengths and weaknesses as an athlete, right? And I'm sure you do this with yourself and all the people you coach, is really figuring out what's going to best benefit you and looking
Yeah,
at the map before kind of realizing, if I'm not the fastest guy on foot here, where can I make up ground? Where can I
sure.
hold back a bit? Where can I push more? So I just knew going off like the line, everyone's going to go out crazy fast as they always
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
All the adrenaline and excitement, and I wasn't sure that I had that kind of speed on paper. I know there was one athlete, I think he finished in fourth, and I've looked at his training. He's probably the fastest runner on foot by quite a bit. And so just thinking maybe he'd pick it out, or as it turned out, it was Dylan, which was awesome for him. Like
Yeah,
pushing the pace up front, and he's a weapon for sure. So
yeah.
like just seeing those guys go out, but knowing that I can't get too far back. Got to still see
Hmm.
them. In my mind, I'm kind of looking at different places. Like you never want those guys to be more than maybe 20, 30 seconds ahead of you. Then that gets a little bit discouraging. So keeping
Yeah,
them within that range, and then just yeah, moving up like through the obstacles, feeling good, knowing that we'd have this big running section after, and then just deciding to kind of make a pretty aggressive move in the middle of that race where that's the
yeah,
point where everyone's really hurting after all those obstacles and your body's kind of like absorbing all that impact from them and then trying to get back to a steady run.
yeah,
And I'd practiced that a little bit in my training too, just like kind of messing up my body a bit and then hitting a hard tempo again. And so
yeah.
I think that just paid off really well.
Yeah, it's definitely all part of it. I mean, every now and again, I'll jump into an elite race. So typically, like if I go out to a big say trifecta weekend, I might film the super or the beast or whichever one's the bigger one, and then I might just jump into a sprint myself. And like I'll every now and again I'll jump into the elite sprint and go, I'll just see how far I can run with Liam and Quinton. And man, if I just go at my own pace, I'll run like a 28 minute. If I
Yeah.
try and stick with them for a kilometer, I'll run like a 40 minute. Like
Yeah.
just that first K overcooking, like you'll just blow yourself up. But it's a difficult thing to resist. And I think if you like that and it's super important to say for anyone watching. And Matty Day live from Isle of Skye in Scotland. He's a
Wow.
voracious racer himself. He's on a European tour with his big seedy moustache. Um, Actually, he was at APAC last year with us. He won his age cap division at APAC.
Nice.
So it's so important that you learn your strengths and your weaknesses and learn to run your race. Because had you tried to keep up with Dylan at the start and like Dylan had come in on fresh legs, not fresh legs, sorry, he'd raced the day
Right.
before. So had you tried to keep up with him in that first K or two, cooked yourself, then he might have had an edge over you. Whereas instead you sort of held back, and then when you get to the point which is your strengths, and look, Dill's a great racer and he's developed a lot, and I think he's podiumed the last 10 races he's been in, but he's still working on his obstacles. Like his proficiency. I think when I was filming the rings specifically, like he came into the rings and was probably halfway through, and you got on. And you cleaned him up before the end of the rings. Like just your obstacle, the aggressiveness and the strength and the quality of the technique was, miles above anyone else that I saw out on course there. So for you to be able to, you know, hold back, pace yourself, let your body get into that rhythm, and then just blow the doors off them through the obstacles. It's so much more of like a psychological defeat, where you're just getting to the point in the race where you're starting to hurt pretty bad. I would say 3-4 Ks into an APAC super, and then the guy who's probably favourite just blitzes past you on an obstacle and takes off. It's pretty hard to rally yourself to keep up with that. So,
Yep.
Another good example of that was watching Atkins on the weekend at Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah, they just, I think it was the 3K. The 3K, no, it was the 21. The 21. He just paced himself, man. He just let him run, and he just ran a smooth race the whole race. And and they were saying that the guys commentating were saying he's just the king of pacing.
Yeah, he is. He knows his body 100%. That's what it is. So.
Yeah, and and they said too, these younger athletes, maybe slightly less experienced athletes, will race against him, and every time they take off, and then 3/4 of the way through, he'll pass him. They're like, why don't you just stick with him at the start? let him guide the pace,
Man, it takes time, when you're in that race situation too. I think sometimes it's easy not to listen to your body too, and you just get caught up in the heat of the moment, which so many of us. And sometimes you got to do that. Just an example, in my first Hyrox, I totally did that, man. I didn't know what to expect, and I just kind of blew early on the sled push, just hauling ass and made a move, and they almost caught me at the end. I won that race, kind of. That's another story, but that's a time where sometimes you do got to take risks too. So it's all about kind of figuring that out for yourself as well.
It's it's a path not trodden too. When you're going into a Hyrox, you've pushed sleds, you've pulled sleds, you've run, you've done lunges, but in that format specifically, you don't know how to pace it. Whereas going into a Spartan race, I've definitely looked at course maps before and gone, okay, there's going to be a big hill here. There's out of this obstacle's sort of a bit of a flat run. So when I come out of the twister, I know I can open the legs up a bit, but then I'm going to come into an you're sort of psychologically working out where you can push and where you can't, and where it's not worth beating yourself up and gassing yourself. When you're going into your first Hyrox, you don't know that, and I think one of the things. And it's the same with obstacle racing, but there's obviously a fair bit more variability in obstacle racing. But just learning that pacing is so important for an athlete. Learning how to pace yourself and not go too hard, and learning where you can catch your breath and where you need to give it. I think ultimately when you're talking about these big long sports, until you're at the really pointy end, which obviously you are, but until you're top 15 Hyrox, you're just out there to run your own race.
Yeah, true.
Once you're within a minute of the top 15 guys, now it's a psychological battle between you and the guys out there. But a lot of the guys that are going to watch this podcast are just people getting into their first Spartan races, and they're going, "Oh fuck, how do I become the best guy in Asia?" And these are lessons they're going to have to learn, man, where they go out and redline their first 2Ks and struggle for the rest of the 21. We've all been there.
Yeah.
Mate, what exactly went wrong in the 10K last year?
Yeah, that was just a case of pretty bad sickness, man, going into it. I'd gotten COVID 2 weeks before, maybe about a week before.
Yeah.
And I'd taken about a full week off everything.
I can relate.
The Wednesday before the race was a Saturday morning. And that was when I did my first small little run. Just didn't feel great, still felt like I had this congestion, chest tightness, and looking back on it, it was probably pretty stupid to go and try it. Honestly, there were all the signals that said, you shouldn't be doing this. But of course, when you commit to that kind of a race and that kind of pressure, you just want to go. You want to go do it for yourself, for the people you coach, and so I went. I gave it an honest effort. It just was terrible from the start. Just not feeling myself, and just no power, no energy. So kind of the exact opposite to this past year, where I just felt like that was, almost a flow state of running, where it did. Of course, it's still very difficult, and you're pushing yourself to your max capacity, but your body's tolerating that feeling so much better.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, most endurance guys will know the feeling when you go out and everything just feels like it's synchronous and your body's doing what you want it to do, and you lose yourself in the mountain runs and you go, oh fuck, that's 3Ks already. Like you do go into that flow, and then you have the other races where the whole thing just feels uphill, and you know you finish at the same place you started, so it can't be, but that's how it fucking feels. So it's you definitely have those days, mate. I can relate. I've been sick for about 7 or 8 days now. Obviously, we cancelled this on Saturday, but yeah, pretty much from when I got back from Thailand, from when I got back from my tour, I was cactus, and it's not good when your body's not good when your body's not doing what you want it to do. Belinda just chiming in, just saying absolutely. So Belinda starting to chase down some trifectas, and maybe the talking about pacing is gonna help her in the future.
Awesome.
Mate, how did you I was going to say how'd you get into the OCR, but let's go a little bit further back. How did you end up in Bangkok? How'd you end up a US expat in Thailand?
It's a bit of a long story. I mean, like anything in life, some of it's just trial and error, like who you meet, what you decide to do. And I basically, I guess to cut it pretty short, I worked in New York City for a little while. So I had an internship there. Was working at a gym doing personal training as well, and I ended up connecting with a guy, an American guy who had a company in Singapore, and had this opportunity to come work for him there. And I remember asking him, like, you know, Singapore, what city in China is that? Like, you know, like it's just that like American mindset. I'm so oblivious to this part of the world. I had no idea.
Yeah.
What was even over here, except for like China and India, you know. So like, coming over to this side was just like, it was just such an eye-opening experience. With, like, seeing all these countries around here. I mean, I think I'd heard of Malaysia because there was the flight that disappeared. That was the only thing I knew about
MH370.
Yeah, right. That you know, Bali I'd heard of because of like all the yogi hippie stuff. So
a lot of Australians there.
Yeah, like little stereotypes about places. Thailand, like you heard it was like a lot of interesting things.
People go to get rub and tugs.
Yeah, pretty much. Like lady boys and parties and full moon parties, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's how I ended up on this side of the world. And I worked in Singapore for about 2.5 years. That job ended. It was a startup, and we didn't really take off as a lot of startups do. So I moved to Bangkok without really a plan. Like I just came here with a bit of savings. I was still expecting to get back to Singapore, so I was kind of using this as my home base, applying for jobs back there. And then ended up meeting someone here, you know, an ex-girlfriend who kind of decided to keep me planted here for a little while, and started working online, finding random things to kind of make money from here. And got stuck here during COVID, so that was kind of a big change. It was like everything locked down, and had to really figure out, you know, what I was going to be doing. And I had started doing some coaching right before COVID started at that point, so I'd already started my PT business. Just kind of picked it up from there, man. And then once events started coming back, just building the Thailand OCR and getting more into, kind of building a community of fitness here, which has really been the focus the last 1.5 2 years, I'd say.
Yeah, awesome. So it was 2018, I think you ran your first race over there.
Yeah, end of 2018.
Cool. And it hooked you pretty quick.
Yeah, I wasn't like, so I was a runner back at university. I did cross country, track and field, and then I just took like 5 years off. Like just didn't run. I can honestly say I probably ran once in like 5 years. Like I was so sick of running, so burnt out. Did a bit of the pro lifting stuff, you know, like watch the fitness YouTubers, and was kind of getting more into like some bench press and all this kind of stuff in the gym. But that wasn't that serious either. But what I appreciate about that time of life was like I did build up some baseline strength, you know, which I didn't have before that time. So during that first Spartan race, what was actually the hardest thing was the obstacles were okay. I think I failed the spear throw, and that was it. Which, if your first go around, that's pretty good for a Spartan race. And but my running was just shit, man. Like I was just slow. Realized like it's still a running sport primarily, right? So once you've established that strength, most of the focus has got to be on aerobic development. So then the next couple of years has really been that, like, still doing a lot of strength training, but obviously most of that time is now spent running. I do a lot of training on the machines, rowing, ski erg, some assault bikes. It's just a mix of modalities of primarily aerobic training, and then some strategic kind of strength stuff, especially closer to a race, like, closer to a Spartan or Hyrox.
So like hanging, swinging, farmers carries, stuff like that.
All that, yeah, exactly, all that stuff.
Sure. I find that's usually the pathway. Like whenever I speak to a sort of elite level OCR athlete, they tend to have a base in something and then they've had to fill a gap. But usually like the guys that do pretty well are like around their sort of late 20s, 30s, and they've had like a bit of time here, a bit of time there. Like, I had a strength phase, I had a bodybuilder phase, I had a running phase, and they've got all these disciplines that they've then squished together. But I think I find like either I'd say cardio athletes, so like swimmers, runners, people who just had that base as a sport, and then they've found a way to add some strength in, or people like gymnasts who have just a really good calisthenics sort of strength background, and then they've had to learn the cardio or build the aerobic base around that. But yeah, it's what I love about OCR and Hyrox as well, and this sort of whole fitness racing thing is it is so many different things that you need to be competent at. So these athletes who are, it's truly impressive, man. Like, it's usually a lot of years of dedication to get there. Usually half a lifetime.
Yeah, it's cool, dude. It is interesting. Yeah. It's like, that's why I like these sports too, because it's a bit of a puzzle piece, like running is so simple. The faster, it's your time's on paper. Like when I ran at university, it's like, okay, I'm a sub 4 1500 meter guy. I'm a sub 15 5K guy. Like, you're just known by your times. Or in the gym, like bodybuilding, it's like, okay, I can bench, whatever, 3 plates. I can squat 4 plates, whatever those are. And I like how nuanced and just interesting this sort of functional fitness space is, whether it's more on the OCR side or more on the APAC side. Like, it's just fascinating because it is a puzzle piece, figuring out what you got to be doing, and then combining it can be too. Like, some people are much better at being like running close to what their max capacity speed is, whereas other guys, you're kind of like, oh, shit, there's no way I can run with this dude. He's so much faster than me. But then you get on an OCR course, you put him in a Hyrox event, you could still beat him. Like, that's what I love is there's other variables.
Man, absolutely. Have you, just before we go on, have you got handy any like headphones with a mic? I think we're on like a loudspeaker, and it's sort of just every couple of words it sort of muffles a bit. Just if you've got it.
Sure,
if you don't, it's all good. Just while you're hunting around, I'll just say, like, to that point where you were saying, the training is a little bit more dynamic. It's not just go out and run as fast as you can. Like you said, you were actively working on, say, running hard and then coming in, smashing yourself with something, and then getting hard running again. Like you're actively working on those sort of energy system changes where you're coming out of that purely maybe aerobic or anaerobic running into like a heavy strength, and then how do you hit the ground running again?
Yeah.
That's interesting training.
Yeah, it's not. Can you hear me any better, or is it still
slightly? Yeah. I find it's.
I don't have headphones.
That's okay. It's just the loudspeaker every now and again. It'll freak out. My wife. No. I always know when my wife rings me on loudspeaker. Because you sort of get every third word. Matty Day saying I had a fat phase which helped me learn to eat a lot of food for training. Yeah, I don't think I ever needed to learn. I think I'm just real good at that.
Hey, but you know what? You need to do that for this kind of training, man. Like, I feel like I don't know about you, people you work with, but I think that's an issue with some of the athletes I coach, is just under fueling, because there's sort of like a healthy user bias. Like, people who do this stuff are going to be more healthy in general. Like, they're probably paying more attention to nutrition and sleep and all this stuff. a lot of times maybe it's too healthy. Like they're reading things online that's talking about, you know, eating certain foods that you should be touching or whatever. And
Yeah.
my whole thing is like, you know, training for performance, you need to kind of be optimizing, you know, getting enough calories in for sure. So just fueling your
Yeah.
body well, trying not to skimp on stuff. And if there is that time that you do want to sort of focus more on leaning down or aesthetics, at least I'm a big fan of kind of keeping that a little bit of a separate phase from just like focusing
Mhm.
on performance, you know, because it's going to really hinder that if you're trying to train in
Yeah,
a
yeah.
big bit. So
Yeah, that's probably how I work myself. Like I will walk around and train a little bit fluffier than my race weight. And then when I'm coming into a race, I'll have like a little bit of a cut to sort of drop a kilo or two just to be that little bit lighter for race day. Like I find that so all throughout the year, if I stay really lean, I don't, maybe it's because I like food a lot and I'm sort of a little bit more relaxed and I'm sort of not training as much of a sort of pro athlete level. But if I find my body can tolerate a lot more punishment being slightly fluffier. So like I'll get out
yeah,
and do things like 6 hour pack marches and shit like that. Like I'll do 24-hour enduros and I'm always doing big crazy fucking events. And I find just having that little bit more bulk, I'm a bit more durable for like massive training spikes. But it's super important that you're not trying to be in, say, a traditional, say, calorie deficit. So say a client comes to me and they're going, hey, I want to lose 5 kilos over the next 5 months. It's like, great, just understand that's going to come away from your performance. Like you're probably not going to be smashing PBs out of the park at the same time.
yeah,
Um, you know,
100%. Yeah,
and that's like, look at like bodybuilders. They just work in bulking, cutting cycles. So when
yeah,
when you're bulking and you've got a little bit of that excess sort of fluff, it's a bit easier to gain strength. It's a bit easier to gain size, and then they'll cut for events. So
yeah.
yeah, it's yeah, cutting weight, especially aggressively, is not very healthy. It's a pretty big stressor on your system.
For sure. Yeah. But there's a lot of pressure also. I mean, I think social media, right? It doesn't help at all. Like just seeing
Yeah,
everyone train all the time, doing all these amazing things.
yeah,
I'm guilty of it too, man. I've definitely,
yeah.
I can see myself if I'm looking at myself, like from an outside perspective, I could see where that, you know, you could assume like, oh, this guy's always training, always super ripped. It's not really like that. Like there's definitely times you got to take breaks, got to listen to your body.
Mm-hmm.
Even now with a bit of a low back thing, so I've just been, you know, taking a couple days pretty easy, and like you go
Mm-hmm.
through ebbs and flows, and you can't just be crushing it all the time or trying to like, yeah, always be extremely ripped or whatever. So
Yeah,
I'm with
the results aren't linear either.
yeah,
I find I can go. I like when I train fucking hard. Like I'll train 3 hours a day for 2 weeks, and then I'll have like 2 weeks where I'm pretty light. But
yep,
it's and I don't know whether that's come out of necessity from just the way my sort of work is. Like my work is not consistent. It's sort of like I'll have like Thailand where I'm away for 2 weeks and I'm running a trip and I'm literally take people with us to guide this trip. So I'm working like 16 hours a day for 2 weeks straight, and there was not a lot
yeah,
of training done that week or those weeks. And then I'll come back and have 2 weeks where I'm not doing a lot. So I have these periods where I train really hard and then I'll like maybe work really hard and then I'll train really hard, work really hard. But from I guess like adrenal and recovery standpoint, that seems to agree with me pretty well. Like, you know,
yeah,
I can have sort of 2 really hard weeks a month or even 3, as long as I have that sort of down week, my body can sort of recover pretty well. And I think it's important. One thing that I talk about with clients is it's not about going, here's my perfect system. It's about going, let's find your perfect system.
yes, so
Um,
important.
and what works for you now. Like often you'll get somebody will come to me and they'll go, hey man, I'm 35. My kids have grown up enough that I can start to focus on my own sport again. You know, I haven't played since I played footy in my 20s. I want to get back to running how fast I was then and how fit I was. And it's like, man, your life was different. Your job wasn't as involved. You didn't have responsibility with your kids. You were training 10 hours a week. Now you're training a lot less, drinking a lot more, and your work's a lot busier. So you're like, what worked for you 10 years ago is not your solution now. You need to be fucking reasonable.
Right. Dude, yeah, that's so true. I mean, individualized, like learning someone, where they're at in their life now. It's so important. You need to, you can't just impose your own methods on someone. Like, I'm such a big fan of really just being a partner and a support network for other people, because what they've got going on can be so much different from you. And you just got to be sure that what you're doing is realistic, sustainable, and you're holding them somewhat accountable for it too, because sometimes I err on the side of being a little bit too yeah, it's okay, but then I realize it's like, well, I don't do that for myself. I should be a little bit more lenient, or a little bit more strict with people, not quite so lenient some of the time. So it's a balance as well.
It's also like, for me, like I've got a couple of guys on the elite end, but most people are just out there trying to hit a PB, trying to do an obstacle-free race, trying to race without getting injured. Just trying to achieve those personal goals. They're not out there to be pro athletes. And I'll say that to someone. Like, I got off a call with a client the other day who, hasn't been as consistent in December as she was in November, and just said, I'm really struggling to, work's really busy. We're about to shut down for the year and I'm just having to pull long hours. And I'm like, well, you're not a fucking pro athlete. Like, it's not your main priority in life. And if you were a pro athlete and you were like, look, I just don't have time to train, I'd be like, well, you need to change your fucking priorities. But they're telling me that they're going for a promotion at work, and it's like, great, fucking chase those dreams. Like, that's amazing. That's what life's all about. But you just got to realize that's going to take time and cognitive load and stress that you can't also be trying to run down a PB and train 2 hours a day. Like, you just have to be reasonable. So I usually say to people, if you've got like something that's, say, taking a lot of your time and you can't fit your training in, you have to be really practical but also diligent in saying, is this a temporary thing that's taking my time and there's light at the end of the tunnel? So am I maybe working really hard for the next 2 weeks, but then I've got 3 weeks off from work because it's Christmas, and I can probably train a lot more then. So is there light at the end of the tunnel and I just have to sort of wait it out? Or is this a somewhat permanent solution or a permanent situation that I need to change because it's not suiting what I want out of life? Like, if you're in a job where you just do a shit ton of overtime, but you also want to hit PBs and win races, like, sometimes you can't have all things. Like, you got to be a bit ruthless about that. So it's just going, is this a temporary inconvenience that I just have to tread water and manage? Or is it something that is not, going to fit in with the goal I have for my life or the vision I have for my life, in which case something has to change.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely.
When did you start Thailand OCR?
I started it 3 years ago. So right in the middle of COVID, man. The best time.
The best of times, the worst of times. What was because I know in Southeast Asia, they're pretty sick for it, man. They're pretty sick for Spartan. The Filipinos have got a super strong team. What's his name? Out of Malaysia.
Saddam, yeah.
Saddam. I was thinking Samir for a second. Saddam out of Malaysia. There's some really, really strong athletes out of China, out of Japan. It seems like it's really kicking off in Asia. What was the response that you had in Thailand? Like, was there already a bit of a pocket of active races?
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, I think, again, a lot of this is what's happening with events, so what I think really helped was in 2022 when Thailand kind of opened up and people started coming back, and then that Chiang Mai race was announced. I think a lot of people started getting pretty excited for that, and then the fact that APAC came to Phuket just a few months later, that really started like a big momentum. So that was a big year for growing the community and just getting more people kind of involved, seeing what it's about. There's not a ton of like OCR groups in Thailand. There's a few, but
Mm-hmm.
I think what makes mine a little bit different, or the Thailand OCR a little bit different, is we really try to focus on not just the obstacles themselves, because those are what are really fun for people and it's good to practice on, but the
Mm.
whole like overall development of an athlete. So actually doing some running sessions,
Okay.
doing some sessions of compromised running, which is what I talked
Good.
about before, breaking up running, simulating some obstacle, or switching the energy systems in the body, going back
Mm-hmm.
to running.
Shunting the
Um,
blood
and
around.
yeah, exactly. And then strength work too. If someone's come into the group and they're clearly lacking some either lower body, upper body, whatever that foundational strength is, getting them in the
Mm.
gym, trying to have them work on some basic squats, deadlifts, pull ups, whatever it
Yeah.
might be for them. Um, so it's been fun. It's been fun building it. I think if I look at Thailand versus like the Philippines are definitely pretty far ahead of everyone in terms of their kind of OCR scene and community.
Mm-hmm.
They have a really good situation where I think they have a federation set up that funds a lot of their travels and events, and they have like a whole team of
Yeah,
sponsored
it's a
athletes,
proper like pro team, hey?
which is pretty cool. Um, so we're a little bit behind that. Sorry, is the connection
So's
maybe cutting
Australia,
out a bit?
mate.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we don't have a pro team in Australia either, man.
yeah. Yeah, so ideally, that'll change in coming years. It's kind of hard to say with what the direction the sport's going, but
Mm.
I'd like to think that at least here, there'll be more people involved. There'll be some better Thai runners who will kind of get up there and crack into the top 10 a little more often, and
Yeah,
so we'll see, man. We'll see.
awesome. It's there's certainly a lot more to it, especially when you just have a runner, or like even like a trail runner, like a good trail runner will come out and do a Spartan race and just get fucking smoked. And you like you
Yeah,
realize how much more there is. And I think that's something that I've seen with clients over the years. And Belinda, I did see your question roll in about the Decker and Hyrox and stuff. I'm gonna get to that soon. Don't think I haven't missed it. Um, one thing I've seen over the years are people who maybe spend too much time doing obstacles and not enough time working on the individual components like the strength, like the running, like the piecing it all together. They'll just go to like say a ninja gym and just fuck around for an hour at the ninja gym a couple times a week. And it's like, yeah, you
yeah,
can slowly and deliberately do obstacles very competently when it's dry, but can you run and do 30 of them in 5Ks in 25 minutes? That's a very different animal.
yeah, dude.
It's a very
While your
different
heart
thing.
rate's like through the roof, it's like a totally different sensation.
Yeah, yeah. And just the like being able to manage your pace when when you do come through a big obstacle gauntlet, it's proper
Yeah,
difficult. And like understanding that for somebody who maybe doesn't have many obstacles, so I've trained because a lot of what I do is train people online, and we have people all over Australia, all over the world. We've had clients, but we'll train somebody in the rural middle of bumfuck nowhere who has no access to gyms, no access to anything, and we're still putting together like basic, simulated race workouts where they might run, do some burpees, do some rows off a park bench or something, do some push-ups, do some bear crawls, hang off a tree and
yep,
do some pull-ups. But you're piecing together a workout, and these guys who maybe don't have many obstacles will come to a race and they'll do really well.
yep.
And providing you can build all those foundations and those strength and obviously the energy systems, if you can just get to an obstacle facility once every 3 months and play around for a few hours, like that's where you can tune up those skills. And then you just got to piece it all together. So like for somebody who maybe has done a couple of races and said, "Oh, I'd like to get good at this, but I don't have access to obstacles," don't be don't underestimate how much you can do with very very small access to obstacles.
100%.
So
I
much
couldn't agree more. Yeah, couldn't
so
agree
much
more.
foundational stuff you can do. How many athletes did you have over at APAC? I think I saw a post or two. It looked like you had quite a few guys there,
There's a ton. I think
which
with
is
our
good.
whole group, there's probably 25-ish,
Fuck,
maybe.
giddy up.
Some, Yeah.
That's good, man. It's great. It's
It
great.
was a lot. It was.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I love watching just the communities grow. All around the world. It's such a cool thing watching the sport grow.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome to see, and hopefully more into next year too. So,
Yeah.
um, got to bring some people to you guys. I think in September, right?
September, APAC,
Yeah,
Gold Coast. I was
that'll be okay.
actually, so I do a little bit of work with a race, a company called Raw Challenge Gold Coast. I do all their corporate boot camps, and we run some stuff out there, and they do a couple of big races each year. And that's sort of my local, but that's about probably 2Ks from where the APAC will be in that Numbinbar Valley. It's in
Wow,
the same place. So I was there on Sunday.
nice.
Yeah, it's such a nice little valley there, man. Such a nice place to run through. There's a couple of really nice creek crossings, some nice like shaded sort of technical running through, sort of switchbacks on the mountains and stuff. And then a couple of points where you're pretty exposed running down the side of hills and paddocks and stuff. So it's got a bit of a mix of everything. It's quite a nice venue. Did they say what race would be APAC next year yet? Is it going to be the Beast?
That's a good question. I don't know. That's what I've heard. The Beast would be it, but I guess we'll have to see. You
I
probably
wonder
know
where
more
I'll
than
find
me.
it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I wonder
yeah.
where I'd find
We'll
that. I wonder if it'll be on Spartan's page. We can
yeah,
have a look right now,
Spartan
sir.
Australia, maybe?
Yeah.
Not sure. Yeah, it should be fun though.
I think it might be the Beast. If anyone's watching and they know, let me know. Dom says she thought it
Yeah.
was all three. While I search for this, I'm just going to ask you this question, Gabe. So, any recommendations for doing the Deca Stadium Series this coming year? So, just a little bit of context for you. So, we haven't had Hyrox or Deca or anything like that in Australia yet. There were 2 Hyrox races in 2023, and they're going to have 4 next year. But Deca is going to launch in Australia in 2024, and a couple of other Spartan offerings, which is pretty cool. So obviously there's going to be a pretty big hunger for people getting into the hybrid sort of racing game in Australia. It's really set to take off. But yeah, would you have any advice for Belinda looking to do Deca Stadium? Have you done a Deca at all?
Yeah, I haven't done DECA. I'd love to. I just haven't had that opportunity yet. But yeah, I think that'll be very exciting for her. Like trying to probably do a bit more of the strength stuff. Really learning what those stations are,
Yeah.
or the compromise running again. It's a fast race. I think it's only a 5K with 10 stations. So
Yeah.
it's sort of like Hyrox on speed, basically. Just
Yeah. So it's sort of
crushing yourself. Yeah, it's like I can imagine it's a very quick, painful one.
Is Deca Stadium, is that the one that got like the world record's like 9 minutes or something? Like it's fucking fast.
Yeah,
Am I thinking about the same thing?
I think there's like Deca Strong, Deca Mile, and Deca 5K, right? So maybe the Deca Strong is like 9 or 10 minutes. I think you're right.
Which is just rough.
That's
It's
wild.
like
Yeah, wild.
absolute fucking red line.
Oh my God,
It's a tough day in the
can't
office.
can't imagine. Yeah, it's
I
a bit
can't
out of my
it's fun.
wheelhouse, I think, but it'd be a fun one to try. You'd be good
What?
at that, man. I bet with your strength and stuff.
Probably. That's more up my. I'm good at like short explosive stuff or like really
Yeah,
long grindy stuff like enduros, like 24-hour enduros and stuff.
yeah,
But I'd probably say like my fastest. Yeah, like a super beast. It's sort of proper.
yeah,
I probably enjoy supers and beasts. But
yeah,
sprints
definitely.
are too quick for me. You know what I was
Yeah,
watching though on on the weekend watching the Abu Dhabi thing. Did you watch the 3K at all on the Friday
I
night?
did. Yeah, I watched it. Yeah,
So what was cool about that was they did the heats were all 1K, so it was a 1K loop with 10 obstacles, and they'd run
yep,
heats to whittle the field down. And then when they got to this, obviously you watched it, but for anyone watching this chat, so they did these 1K heats, and then when they got to the 3K race, it was 3 loops of that 1K 10 obstacle course. So then there was, 3Ks with 30 obstacles. But it was I really liked that format. That those 1K loops and even just the 3K race. I'm like, ooh, I think that might be something I'd be interested in.
It'd be fun to try. I think they had it in the Philippines, but that was the only one in this part of the world. This past. Yeah. So they had a series there, but 3K would be really fun. I think I'd like to try that one too. They have some different ones. They have like the laser pistol and stuff. So you got to practice some of these new ones you've never tried before. But it looks amazing, man. Yeah. The guy who won was so impressive too, VJ. Man, my God, just watching that race, he just put on a masterclass, dude.
Yeah. Did you see? Fuck, he's good on obstacles, man. Did you see? I think he put up a video. I'll probably be able to find it here actually. I think Spartan reshared it. Of he went out for like a fun lap. I was watching him like in that 3K, like he was running to the rings. And he's literally running in and jumping to like the third ring.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy fuck, man. I've never seen anyone do that in a race. Like I've seen people do it fucking around at Ninja, but not in a race where you've just come out of a dunk wall.
Yeah. It's ridiculous, dude.
Yeah, man. Just the competence, as you said, the confidence of being able to jump and know that your body's going to catch yourself. It's it's certainly exciting. Fuck, I thought I'd be able to find that. I think
that's a great one for anyone who can watch it. I think I know the video you're talking about.
Yeah,
how we just like.
I'll be able to bring it up here. Here we go.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Here we go. That's pretty nuts, man.
Dude, that's what the heck?
That's fucking insane. That's after a weekend of racing too, like.
Yeah, that's why he's the world champ. I mean,
hey,
good runner, and just if you can do that kind of thing, you're bulletproof, man. It's incredible to see. Yeah.
Have you raced over in the US at all, or have you just been racing in Asia?
Haven't, dude. I was planning to last year. So there's a series called Savage Race in the US,
I know,
which is similar to Spartan, and I actually signed up for one. This was in July, close to Chicago when I was there. But I hurt my back like a couple weeks before, so I didn't actually get to do the race. But so I've never raced over there. I'd love to though. Planning to maybe do Hyrox in DC this coming March. So that's the tentative plan right now, is to make a trip back and try to qualify for world champs in that race. So we'll see,
beautiful. We're definitely going to get into talking about Hyrox, and for anyone who doesn't know what Hyrox is, it's sort of the sport of fitness racing. So it's started in Germany 2017, I think. It's always the same course. It's always 8 kilometers of running with 8 stations of work. So it's a kilometer run station. The stations are ski erg, sled push, sled pull, row, burpee broadside jumps, lunges, farmers carry, wall balls. So it's what I've been explaining to people, and I haven't actually run a Hyrox yet. I covered the media in both the races that were here, so I'm looking to do my first one in 2024. But I think it's up my alley because I'm a bit of a heavier athlete. It's sort of like CrossFit and OCR, I'd say. If CrossFit had a lot more cardio, but it's without the skill. It's just like engine work.
Yeah.
So you might not have the technical skill to get across rings and monkey bars and stuff like that, but you can pick up some heavy shit and carry it for a while. You can do lunges, you can do burpees. Like it's all the fucking how hard can I make my body go? And I really just like the idea of it for a couple of reasons. Obviously, it's cool to see savage athletes like yourself fucking kill it. But I think it's a lot more accessible for people who maybe just go to functional fitness classes and they don't really have a sport. This is the sport for the gym goer. Yes,
exactly.
It's cool, man. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think the same. It's a lot. The barrier to entry is a lot lower than crossing
Yeah.
it. Like,
The other thing too that I thought was cool, like they had one in Sydney and one in Melbourne, and I had athletes turn up in Sydney who I've been racing with for years, who are amazing athletes, and stood on heaps of podiums. Have their like family watch them race for the first time ever because the race wasn't in the middle of fucking nowhere. It was like in the city, in the stadium, that they could just turn up and be a spectator. And for me, like running around filming, it was sick. Like it's so suited to that.
yeah,
So
it's so much fun. It's so fun having everyone there, like watching you, and you're totally exposed the whole time, So like,
yeah.
for better or worse, you gotta like
Hey.
that's an event you got to manage it even better than OCR, like really pacing and
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. It's so much fun though. Like, I was quite lucky with the early success I've had in it, but I just feel like, yeah, it's a sport for me as well. Like just being a little bit bigger of an athlete, it's a great one, really good one to get into, and it rewards strength a lot more than OCR rewards strength, of course, too, but this one even more so.
I find OCR, like I'm a little bit too big. I'm not the ideal size for an OCR athlete. Like I carry a little bit more bulk, which is great when I want to go and do a 24-hour pack march, or a 12-hour hurricane heat or something like that. I'm really happy I've got that bulk. But if I've got to run 50 Ks through the mountains, I'm like, this
Exactly.
10 kilo vest I'm carrying isn't great. Whereas Hyrox, because it's all flat, and obviously you got to move some heavy shit, it's not going to punish that bulk quite as much. Like it's that muscle's going to be a lot more useful.
Definitely, yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty excited for it. Did you run? Was it Hong Kong? Your first one, Hong Kong last year?
Yep. Yeah, Hong Kong. That was it.
And did
So I've only
you
done two.
correct me if I'm wrong? Did you set an insanely fast time but went in the wrong gate? So you've gone in an out gate or something and copped a time penalty, which was no like advantage to you, but obviously rules are rules.
Yeah.
So you just run me through what happened there.
Yeah, so every course is like set up a little bit differently with Hyrox, and I think that's something as the sport grows, they'll have to figure out a little bit more as people are chasing times and records and everything, because there's definite advantages and disadvantages to certain courses. The Hong Kong one was fast for sure. Like the sleds were fast, the running track was fast, and then the way that they set it up, they had the two in and out gate literally right next to each other. Where some courses they're on opposite sides or whatever. But I just made a mistake, man. It was 100% me. I finished the burpee broad jump, which is right in the middle of the race. So you're coming out of that, your brain's pretty fried. You're just you're totally redlining. You're trying to control your heart rate, getting back to running. And I just made a mistake, went out the wrong one. Didn't cost me any extra time. And I won the race, but was later reassessed, a minute penalty. So that knocked me out of the World Championships for this past year, which I'd planned to participate in for about 2 hours after the race. Yeah. So it was a bummer, but it was, I'm still really proud of it. I think it's still the fastest debut time in the sport. So I still got that, record to my name.
Even with the time penalty?
Even with it, yeah, I don't think anyone's run that fast in their first go at it. So I feel like I got a lot to still kind of prove, and just need to find the right race and get in with the right guys to do it. So Singapore was another really fun race, but that was sort of by myself, and that was a really slow course, unlike Hong Kong. Okay. So again, they're a little bit different, each one of them.
Yeah, so, and I'm sure over as it grows, and they're obviously aggressively expanding around the world at the moment. Yeah. Are there any that are known for like PB courses? Are there any that people go, oh look, if you want to run a fast race, you go here or you go there?
Kind of like the world record was just broken again in Stockholm last week. Yeah, Hunter. So this guy's sort of like the face of the sport, and people are saying that was a pretty quick course. My feeling with it is like, you go and you see, and you can only control yourself and your effort. And if you're on
Yeah.
if you're on a fast course, that's amazing. If you're on a slow course, well, that's too bad, but you still do your best. So yeah, he broke the world record. It's 53 minutes now, which is ridiculous if you break it down station by station
It
and
was
running time.
54, wasn't it, before?
It was
So
54.
he's
So
knocked like a minute off.
he broke it by like 45 seconds, I think. It's just an unreal performance, you know. And when you get into this race and you understand what it takes to run something like that, you just have so much respect for it. So yeah,
Yeah.
I gotta improve myself. Definitely learn. I know where my weaknesses are, so there'll be things that I'll be working on for the next one for sure.
What's your sort of, and Dom asked this question as well, what are your plans for 2024? But have you got like an A race that you fight? Is there like one way or the other, Hyrox or OCR, that you sort of preferring to shoot for?
Yeah, um, probably more Hyrox the start of the year at least.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the plan. Like they have the World Championships in June in France, so my goal is to try to find a way to qualify for the elite. They only 15 guys for that race, and I think I'm like 20th, 25th on the leaderboard right now. So I'm not in that top 15 yet. So I just got to find the race to make that happen.
The Hong Kong time that you put down before your time penalty, would that have been enough to get you into the 15?
That would have been 10th in the world at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So with minute penalty, it bumped me back to 17th, I think. So I just missed it. And then
So
now,
you've got it in the
there's
legs.
there's been guys who've run a lot faster this year, so that's why it's moved down even further,
Yeah.
But I think I can get there. Like if I'm healthy and I find the right race to run in with the right guys, I think I can make it there. And then we'll see, man. Like definitely want to do Spartan APAC, but it's sort of a secondary focus for now, at least.
Uh-huh. Well, it'll be amazing to have you here. I'm actually thinking about. So obviously we've done the. This is a new announcement too. Obviously, we've done the trips overseas where we take Aussies to another country and explore the place. I'm thinking about for APAC here on the Gold Coast about running, like flipping it. So I run the tour here, but international athletes come and explore my
Great
own.
idea.
So I'll
That'd be amazing.
Let you know about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
Man. The Gold Coast. Gold Coast is cool. So we'd love to have you here. It's cool too because obviously with the Hyrox World Champs being earlier in the year, it doesn't really clash with any of the big majors for OCR anyway, which are always around that sort of November, December.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at it like two different seasons, Hyrox first half of the year, OCR more of the second half. So I think it should work out great. Yeah.
Yeah. What changes from a training standpoint as far as like what are you doing day to day? Like how different does your Hyrox plan look to your OCR plan?
It's not a whole lot different, man. Like the way that I train for OCR is almost more like Hyrox training, I think, initially. Like I never really did a lot on the obstacles. There's no ninja gym really in Bangkok. So most of my training was just, as we discussed before, like gym training and hanging from bars and practicing switch grips and stuff, and then kind of muscling my way through the obstacles, So, so I think that the main difference is probably more focused on the lower body. Like for Hyrox, you need a lot of leg strength. So more squats, more lunges. The wall balls is obviously a killer at the end. So making sure you've built up that strength and that stamina, and you've practiced that sensation of how terrible that feels to be able to get yourself through it. Because that's probably the most shocking part, I think, is the pain cave of sitting there doing 100 wall balls at the end, seeing the finish line so close, but you're still so far and you got all these wall balls to do. It's torturous.
100 of them is rough, man. I was lucky enough to go and film the first one, which was in Sydney. in Australia, and we had some fucking big names, man. Like we had Chris Woolley, who's right up there with the best. We had James
Kelly, right?
yeah, who's one of the best.
Yep.
Ricky Gerard, who was going to probably be favourite to win the CrossFit Games that year, and then had a shoulder surgery. But James Newbury, who I think was like fifth at the CrossFit Games, probably one of Australia's fittest guys. Peter Day, who's like F45 triple world champion. So some amazing athletes, and it was a sick event to watch, man. And even watching these guys who are at the absolute top of their game get to the wall balls and get buckled a little bit by these wall balls, like they are not to be underestimated. And Ricky Gerard came in third place, and I think James Kelly won it. Chris Woolley came in second into the wall balls, and I think he had about probably 20 or 30 wall balls on Ricky Gerard when Ricky Gerard came in from his run to his wall balls, and Ricky just went unbroken for 100. Like he just fucking threw the whole 100, just never stopped his rhythm, and snatched second place.
Damn.
And it was like fucking the finish, and I think he ended up beating Chris by about 10 reps, and it was like he just ground him down. But you just saw like, and Chris Woolley is a world-class athlete, and it wasn't his day, and he actually went down to Melbourne a couple of weeks after and ran a way better race and won that event. So he told me, prior to the race that it probably wasn't his best day. But just seeing like the psychological impact of that, where, Chris had a pretty good lead, pretty handy lead, and then Ricky just relentlessly just threw him, and you just watched sort of the panic on Chris's face and the wheels fall off. It's and that's where you see like it's because you're at these stations, so you're sort of running on your own around the arena, but then you go into the stations and you're working shoulder to shoulder with people. So there's that.
Yes.
You start to play mind games, right?
Exactly, dude. Exactly. Yeah.
You see a point where one athlete will smash the sled push in the pool, after not being as quick on the ski erg and maybe not as quick on the row. Like it's quite interesting to see all the athletes' different strengths and weaknesses pop out. But it's a cool sport, man. I'm going to be really interested to see how you go, because I think you're built really well for Hyrox.
More so than OCR for sure.
The first time I saw you like really fucking run hard in an OCR race, I was like, man, he runs way faster than he looks like he has any business to. Because usually the guys who look big and ripped don't actually do that well, unless they've got a really good running base. So it's pretty impressive seeing what you can do out there.
We'll see, man. You too. I think it'll be fun to see what you can do with it as well.
Mate, awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I think my talents are better in broadcasting and filming and stuff like that. I think that's probably where you'll see me pushing. It's looking like APAC is going to be all three.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so it might be an APAC trifecta. But I will. That will be cool. But I'm gonna have Russ on. Russell Nelms, who's the new Spartan OCR, the Spartan Australia CEO. Originally, he was going to be chatting to me tonight, but when I pushed you back on Saturday, when I cancelled when I was sick, he's just pushed out. So I will be letting everyone know when we'll be doing that, but I'll get all the details on APAC. I'll get all the details on everything happening with DECA and all the stuff that Spartan Australia is doing in Australia when I chat to him. But yeah, Belinda's saying they just announced the dates, and the website, Dom saying the website states every race is an APAC full trifecta in kids. So, honey, you were right again.
That's awesome. They usually are, man.
Don't tell them that. So it's it's exciting. It's exciting watching this sport develop and grow, and the athletes develop and grow too. Like we're in this golden era of this sport where records are just consistently getting broken because the sports just haven't been around that long.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
And
it's like CrossFit at its infancy. I think we're sort of like where that was in 2010, 2011. So.
Yep.
The next the next decade will be extremely exciting, I think.
Yeah, well, I know OCR is pushing pretty aggressively into the Olympics, which should be pretty cool. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that, like, I'm pretty sure it's part of the pentathlon, so it's part of the modern day pentathlon in 2028.
Okay.
Will be obstacle racing, and I'm hoping that that goes well, and then they go, hey, this should be its own gig for 2032 because 2032 is Brisbane, which will be
Oh,
pretty
okay.
amazing.
That's cool.
So
That'd be amazing. Yeah, that'd be so
yes,
cool.
so it's an exciting time to be in the sport. And you, man,
Yeah.
with Thailand OCR, I imagine you'd be pretty happy about the sport growing and becoming more legitimate worldwide and becoming more mainstream, I guess is probably a better way to put it.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, both that and Hyrox, I think, there's a lot of potential. So
Yeah.
we'll see. It's very exciting though. It's definitely a good time to be in this fitness space and doing what you're doing, what I'm doing. I think it's awesome.
Um, Mate, circling back to your own training a little bit, we were talking about sort of different philosophies and finding your perfect. Mate, what does your standard training week look like? And obviously you don't have to break down a strength session, but you just say run, strength, mobility. Yeah, what are you typically doing? Are you having rest days? Are you...
Yeah, I'm a big fan of one rest day a week, or probably one every 7 to 9 days, depending kind of what training cycle I'm in.
Cool.
After Phuket, I took probably five days off completely,
Yeah, those
which
man.
was nice. Yeah, just a nice reset, more of a mental thing. My body didn't necessarily need it, but just to
Yeah,
just relax a little bit. And I think that's really important to do after big events.
yeah,
Some people like just crack right back into it. I just feel like
yeah.
that's such a mistake.
I think if
So
it's like your big showcase event, I think if you're sort of
yeah,
racing all year and they're your sort of B races, but you're working towards an A
yeah,
race, I mean, you don't want to be fucking off after your B races. But is it I think there's got to be sort of this grace period um, to sort of savour your win a little bit, especially. Is it
for
Callum
sure.
out of Singapore? Singapore? No, KL. So Callum
Yeah,
Meehan. Is it?
yeah.
I'm pretty sure Callum doesn't drink, and then when he has like a massive race, he like an APAC, he'll go out on a bender for like 2 days. But then he
Uh,
goes completely disciplined again and doesn't drink again until like the next huge race. Like he just has
yeah.
these little
Yeah. Callum's an interesting guy for many
absolutely,
reasons.
absolutely.
He's a fun dude, but I love his mindset, man.
Yeah,
I don't know exactly how he trains, how it's different from me, but the
yeah,
mental side he's definitely got down very well.
yeah. He
Um,
just he just had
yeah, man.
a shoulder. I think it was a shoulder reco. Over
Surgery,
in
yeah, big surgery.
yeah, over in New Zealand. He's a New Zealand guy living out of KL, but he just started Redline, which is his own sort of I think functional
Yeah,
fitness race. So I've been itching to chat to him about that. But yeah, cool guy.
you should get him get him on the pod, man. I did the red line. It was amazing.
Oh yeah,
Really fun weekend. Yeah, it was a crazy experience, dude. I loved it. I loved it.
how
Yeah.
did it how does it play out? What's the format? I haven't done too much looking into it.
It's it's basically it's like Hyrox, but no running. So there's one station in the beginning where you do like a 400-meter run, and
Uh
then
huh.
there's 11 stations back to back, and
Oh
that's it.
yeah,
So
that's
it's
probably
so
right up
fun,
my alley
dude.
to be honest.
Yeah, you'd have a good time at it for sure.
Yeah,
Nothing is as heavy as Hyrox, so the sled push and pull are a little bit easier. But
yeah,
they have some challenging ones. They had this weird one. You have to stand on a Basu ball, and
yeah.
so you're holding the ball and you got to throw it against a wall,
Oh
back and
yeah, yeah.
forth.
So you're
Um,
stabilizing while you...
yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's
doing
tricky.
this while your heart rate's again super high is really tough. And I didn't
Yeah,
practice that one, so that one kind of crushed me uh, during the race. But
let's go.
but it was fun. I loved it. It was a really cool experience.
Do you know if it's always the same? And I mean, this is why I wanted Callum to get on to ask him about it. But do you know if it's always the same, or do they design it fresh each
I'm not sure if they're going to keep it the same
each
way
time?
or not. But what I liked, what they did is they had the race the first day,
Uh
and then
huh.
the second day they did the same thing, but it was an elimination round. So they took 12 guys, and
Sick.
each station they took the slowest guy out of the race, and you had a 90-second break.
Sick.
So it was like going all out,
Yeah,
station,
sick.
break, then they take the guy out. So yeah, I made it down to the final two and then got crushed by this German guy on the last one. But it was
They
super fun. Like,
That's cool.
experience. Yeah.
They run a little local race here on Halloween. There's a guy, Steve Jackson, runs this company called Trail Trips and Events. So he runs a couple of like local running, trail running events around the place and duathlons and stuff. So on Halloween, he does this event called Halloween Hustle, which is a couple of races and everyone dresses up. But he runs an event called The Cut. And I actually had a guy on who won The Cut, Blaine Burke, 1 or 2 podcasts ago. Because they obviously just ran that in October. But essentially The Cut, I think it's a 1,500 metre loop. So it starts out with a heap of athletes and they take off for this 1,500 metre loop. And when they all get back, it depends on how big the field is for how many people they cut each loop. But when they all get back, the last people that come over the line, they might cut 2 or 3. And then they do like 10 seconds from the last person coming over the line and then they go again. So, and it's just as many loops as they can do, and they just keep cutting athletes. So it's like the faster you run, the more rest time you have.
Yeah.
But
That's cool.
Fucking brutal. And then they get it down to like the last, 5 guys, and then they do like a 500 meter sprint to win.
Damn.
And it's fucking savage.
That sounds fun as hell.
It takes them like 5 hours, 6 hours to do. It's brutal.
Jesus.
But yeah, that sort of elimination format, because it'd be the same, I guess, with what you're talking about with Redline, because it's like if you know you're stronger, do you bury yourself in that set and then give yourself more rest into the next one, or do you pace it better? I like those types of like mental games while you're racing. That shit's cool. I'll have to get him on. Food, man.
Yeah.
You said you were talking about, I think we just broke up a little bit there. You said nutrition, super important that you're fueling yourself with good quality stuff. And we were talking about like not being in a deficit and trying to also hit PBs. But what are you eating while you're actually racing? Like, what are you eating while you're running? Is there anything specifically that you're fueling your body with?
During the race, I just bring a few different energy gels with me. I think for the Phuket race, I didn't use any because it was only a 10K.
Yep.
But if I was doing a beast or something, I'd for sure bring at least 1 or 2 gels, Mm-hmm. And then before the race, I got a pretty sensitive stomach, so I don't actually eat a lot the day of, like the morning of, The night before, I'll usually have a pretty big meal, but morning of, it's usually something simple like, coconut water, banana, some honey. That's about it. Can you hear me okay? Sorry if it's breaking.
Yeah, no, I do. It went a bit patchy before, but you're good. You're good now. Man, that's one thing that I got hooked on over in Thailand is the coconut water. Like, but from actual coconuts. Like it's, man, they pick you back up when it's been hot and you're fucked. The electrolytes are real.
Dude, it's so good. That's like every day for me. It's amazing having that here.
Yeah, it's a cool place. Do you think you'll stay in Bangkok? Is that home now?
I think it is, man. It's been that way for the last couple of years. Taking it year by year, but I feel like in the last year and a half, just growing the business here and the community I have, it's a good home base for sure. I don't love this city. I like to get out and be more in nature and stuff. So that part. Running wise, I do. You asked about my training. Like I didn't answer it exactly, but I do most of my running on treadmills, which is not fun for a lot of people. So I kind of like it. I'm weird. Like I just put in music or a podcast and I can get it done. But that's not ideal for a lot of people. Like I'd much rather also be out on trails and stuff, So it's got a good gym scene here. The running side is definitely makes it more challenging. But overall, it's like if you're going to stay in Thailand, it's probably the easiest city to live in. So, business wise and what I got going on here, it's a good place to be.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Just looking at a couple other comments. So Belinda just saying they announced dates for next year, which is awesome. Mate, Mate, is there anything that you sort of wanted to go over that we haven't covered, or anything that you wanted to maybe raise or bring up, or something that might be interesting for aspiring OCR athletes or anyone who's going to catch this replay?
Yeah, hopefully they can hear most of it.
Yeah,
again, sorry for the connection on my side, I think.
No stress.
Yeah, man, I think if you're looking to get into it, it's important to really understand sort of your starting points in certain areas. So really knowing, like I'm a big fan of establishing certain times with running, kind of knowing roughly what kind of 5K shape you're in, roughly what kind of maybe 10K shape you're in. There's a couple other running tests I do with people, and then same with strength, same with grip strength. If it's OCR, you know, how long can you hang from a bar? How many pull-ups can you do? If you're in the gym, what are your kind of squat, deadlift numbers? So just trying to get a well-rounded picture of where someone's at as an athlete. And then I think it's important to keep building on the running, keep building on the aerobic side, but then also work on your weaknesses too. And for a lot of people, that might be grip strength. And so, you know, integrating that into your day can be really helpful too. Like more practice on the bar, really. Like, doesn't require a lot every day, but a couple days a week, you know, various dead hangs, grip switches, chin ups, pull ups, inverted rows, hanging leg raises, toes to bar, like anything to just get on the bar more often. If that's like, you know, a staple part of your week, couple times, then that's going to really help. You start doing that week after week, month after month, and make a big difference for OCR.
Yeah, you're going to get where you wanted to go. And I 100% mirror that sentiment. Track your results, guys. And it doesn't matter what you're trying to do. Like if your goal is to lose weight, you should be taking measurements, you should be taking photos, you should be jumping on the scales. If your goal is to get better, you need to have some sort of performance metric for the thing that you're trying to get better at. Like there's no point jumping on the scales there is a point, but you don't want to be just jumping on the scales and taking photos if your goal is to get better at obstacle racing. You need to be testing those metrics.
Yes.
So I'm sure if you don't know what to test or how to do that, message either myself or Gabe and we'll be able to help you with that. But super important that you track those results, because your progress is not linear. You will have good weeks and bad weeks. And when you have a few bad weeks, but after a month you do that test and you're still up, you know, as long as over time you're trending in the right direction, you'll get where you want to go eventually.
For sure.
Definitely. Mate, it's been really good to chat, dude. And I knew it would be. You're a lovely bloke. And it's awesome to see you killing it over there in Thailand and building a nice community and growing the sport over there, because I really like coming over and racing there. I would say, man, Chiang Mai is probably the best place I've ever been as far as like a tourist place that I went. I fucking really liked it up there.
I love Chiang Mai. Yeah.
Thailand's
such a good place there, dude.
Yeah. Sweet, man. Cheers for your time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to end the live. Guys, anyone who's on or catching a replay, I will be live with Russ, hopefully in a week or something. So watch out for that. And this replay obviously is on Facebook and YouTube. And Gabe, what's your Insta? It's Gabe Heck, isn't it? I've just thrown Gabe's Insta handle in the chat.
Gabe Heck. Yeah, that's it, exactly. Thailand OCR, same thing. You can connect with me on either one. That'd be awesome. And if you got any questions, shoot me a message or shoot Matt a message.
Awesome. I'll put Thailand OCR in there as well. If you want to give Gabe a follow, he's always doing some good content. No, my pleasure, dude.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Really appreciate it.
All good, buddy. You hang around for a sec. I'm going to end the live, and then I will chat with you off air for a sec. But cheers for tuning in, guys. See yous.